So my recommendation with this project, try not to wing it because there's a lot of tips I give you that will help you not get deductions. Simple things like having these rugs at an angle can actually be a detriment to the things looking like they're sloped. Make sure you have a theme. This one's fun. You've been surprised that, people have come over, but she's got the minimum amount of objects. Put the minimum in, and if there's something wrong with it and you don't get full marks for it, you're going to get a lower mark. So make sure you add things like the coffee table, add the ceiling, add a scene out the window and a curtain and a window. All of that will help your mark be higher just in case there's something wrong with going on with it. And don't forget to contrast correct. There's a lot going on in this room that could have been contrast corrected and made it look even more realistic. But yeah, so let's go through everything that the students did in this course. So with this one here, again, they forgot the shadows underneath the objects. A lot of you put drop shadows on things that aren't against the wall. This isn't even sitting on the table properly. All of that costs marks. Chewed edges around this pole right here, another one with an angle. And if it looks wrong like these books, then don't get them. They're being taken, these were taken from someone standing low looking up high. And if it isn't working, don't put them in. And make sure you follow all the perspective lines that I give you, and that's going to help you with the option. So again, things that are round should lay flat on it. They follow the perspective lines in the same way. Don't forget your shadows. Again, contrast correcting would have helped this image. Don't forget to put the wall darker as it goes back, and it'll help things recede. Really creative stuff going on here. If you can get these lines like this student did to line up, they didn't quite get them to line up here, but that adds marks in the back wall. So anything that you do that's more challenging, like perspective in the ceiling, great. But then stuff like this, there's problems with the way that fan is sitting, so a little bit of an issue there. Make sure you have a soft brush, and make sure the angle of the brush fits the perspective. I go through that in the videos. And again, another one with a drop shadow, make sure you watch that. And any messy stuff like this shadow going along her back, that's going to cost you marks. Other things, students forget to make these shallower so they don't look like they're sitting flat against the wall. And in this case, the student didn't follow the perspective line, so there's something terribly wrong with that wall. Missed a standing adult, missed the shadows under the cats, put a minimum amount of objects, have the rug at a slant. All of that's going to cost you marks. So this one's nicely done, really nicely fit here with her warp tool if they used it, put a reflection in the mirror. I think she even put he put a notice saying, no, check out my mirror, make sure you give me marks for it. Things like the runner are really easy to do because all you do is follow the furniture lines. All of that will help. No, my template lady is not your lady to use. You don't get any marks for leaving her there. You were supposed to put your own lady that fits your own scene, and then these lines are supposed to follow the perspective lines it gave you. Great idea. Don't have enough contrast correction here, so the walls aren't sitting back like they should. Missing crucial things like a lamp. The window and the curtains all were one piece, so you only get one mark for that instead of two. So separate stuff like that and you'll get more marks, but again, not the minimal amount. Yeah, so you can warp, but don't warp to the point that there's something wrong with a person. Make sure that you warp carefully and slowly, and don't warp too much or it's going to look funny. And again, another sparsely decorated room that takes a chance. If you don't have 7 items, I think I mentioned, this one's only got 2, you get deductions for missing those items. You don't just get omissions, you actually get deductions. So these things have to stay flush. They're up and down, not at an angle. Little spaces like that you leave in between. Things that you don't put on blend molds like overlay that look like there's just a smudge on there. All of those are going to affect what is otherwise a really nice room. So this student put plastic. Again, I marked all the additions they had under the plastic, and then when I put the plastic on top, you get additions for that. So I have to be able to see what you did underneath for you to get full marks. Another one that should have contrast corrected, but not bad. There's some problems going on with the way this floor sits. So again, may not be following the perspective lines properly, and I also could have darkened the back of the floor to help that. So this one's nice, lots of good work intact in this one. Remember, if you use veil, to do stuff like this, it will look more like a transparent curtain and not a curtain on low opacity, and it will look much more realistic. So here's another one, well done. A little bit of an angle happening with these. They have to go up and down. Other than that, not bad. This student here, you just used the project marks, the project images instead of their own, so they didn't really fit into the theme. Didn't make things shallower like I mentioned, and then has a pixelated man in there, which again costs you marks. So lots of great additions in this one, but here they put sideways, forward-facing items sideways, which makes things look off. And again, this dog, the binoculars, and even possibly the gun are way too large. So make sure you put a template person. Check his hand out and check the binoculars, and that will help you make sense of things. But really nicely done the way they tucked that pillow into his arm. Little effects like that are great. Another really well done room, really solid. A little bit of shadows under her and here would have helped, but really nicely done. And adding a ceiling would just ensure that you get a better mark. Having things like a neon glow or whatever will help. This student lost marks because they didn't crop it. They have this weird white space on top to an otherwise really well done room, except this puppy is way too large. The purse is bordering on a suitcase, so really think about the scale. This student put my template lady. Yeah, you've got to do it yourself, and other than that, there's some good quality stuff there. This one didn't read the requirements that you have to keep the furniture intact, and they darkened everything to such a degree that you can't really see what's going on. So I'm marking things because of its quality and its clarity, and when they're too dark, then that's going to be an issue. Don't put forward placed things and put them sideways. If you want a dog laying on a rug, find one that's laying on a rug. Don't twist one that isn't. And again, a lot of warp. It just ruins the whole image when otherwise everything's pretty good, except they didn't make this painting shallower. So this one, another one that didn't follow the instructions of not doing things in the dark. But if you really do want to do an image in the dark, do as this student did and have it on adjustment layer so I can look at what's going on. But if the darkness is just hiding bad clarity on images, it's going to cost you. But again, really nice sort of theme going on there. Works quite well. So this one here, you know, if I see a big halo around your images like this, it's going to cost you marks. So make sure you clean everything up. And again, like I said, don't just put a curtain in low opacity. Actually follow what we did with Veil and you get better marks. So some really chewed up stuff when you look at this up close, where you can even see chunks of it. Again, if they're bad enough where there's a lot of chunks going on, I don't give you any marks for your additions. It just gets to a point where I'm thinking, no, that's just too lazy. This one here, she's way too big. Stand a template lady here and compare the size of their heads. This is way too big, and the perspective may not fit this room. So maybe this lady is in proper perspective, but definitely she's not. Really nicely done room here. Everything's beautifully done, really clean. And again, the minimum amount of objects can give you a perfect mark, but if there had been a couple more, maybe a plant over here, you just maximize the fact that you can get your 100%. This is a boy, not a man, and he is way too big for a boy. You need to pay attention to what's a boy. If you wanted to put a boy here, put a man, a template man, find whatever a 7, 8, 9-year-old boy looks like, and then do it in proper height, and that's going to make it look right. He just looks strange being that height. Very well done. Lots of really good quality stuff going on in this image here. This man is way too small. His head should be way up here, and this one isn't contrast corrected, and this one isn't shrunken on the edges. But there's some really good quality stuff going on in there, but again, minimum amount of images. And finally this one, contrast correcting some of them, not having things in the dark. When I take the darkness filters off some of these, they are just really badly damaged curtains, and that affects you because, you know, maybe it looks okay here because you darkened it, but I'm going to look at it in pure light when I give you the marks. So hope that helped.